rapprochement, in which the rescuer does come and Jesus does the work of saving us. Redux, which means that Jesus, by doing that, became himself the new Adam who did it right, the new Israel who was faithful to God, the covenant man who kept God's covenant and earned the covenant blessings, absorbed the covenant curses, and fulfilled the covenant stipulations. Then we begin to talk about the blessings, and so there's a section on the realization in which I discussed many of the different blessings of salvation in different ways the New Testament talks about those. Then relationship, in which we talk about the community of the redeemed, the rescued fellowship, which we call the church. Reassurance, which is a look at Romans 8 and some wonderful reassuring passages that Paul has there. And finally, the results, which speak of the end time results and ultimately the new heavens and new earth. And the chapters in between, some of them are just kind of obvious by the material. Some of them I've tried to play with a little bit and tantalize, like pride hits a brick wall. Maybe you recognize that as the Tower of Babel. Mass confusion. Power play is the fight between Jehovah and the gods of Egypt in the plagues, and so forth like that.
Before we invite Sarah Faye up, do y'all have any questions that you might like to ask Edward? He's wide open. He'll answer personal questions, legal questions, or biblical questions. I mean, this is cradle to the grave here. So any questions that you might have, raise your hand. And Steve's got the microphone. If you don't have any, you're going to hear the rest of mine.
And
so,
if I don't know the answer, Mark will tell you the answer.
Yeah, they know better.
What age group is this for? Would this be for teenagers plus adults?
This is for, I'm going to start at the other end. This is for the most mature person in the Word, or an adult of any age who is not familiar at all with the Bible, all the way down to the first person who can read. Last night, my 8-year-old granddaughter was at our house, and I handed her the book and said, "Julia, read for Pawpaw the back cover." And she read without any difficulty the first 2 paragraphs that I asked her to. So I'm not trying to be evasive, but it really is intended for all ages. As the comment on the cover says, I think it says that this book is for anyone from seeker to scholar who has ever wept for a broken world, who has tasted pain and passion as a partner in the human plight, who has glimpsed a glory as yet unfulfilled and sensed that there's more to come. So I hope this is a book that unbelievers would be interested in. It does not, by the way, have any biblical references in the whole book. They are all in the back of the book, but it reads like a novel. At the same time, those who are most familiar with the Bible, I think, will still learn some new things from this.
Yeah, in the back.
Yes, this is seems like a very dark time that we're all going through, especially for Christianity. I was listening on Fox News last night, or I can't remember if it was NPR, and they were talking about now if there's government funding, you can't pray over your meal with the elderly in retirement homes. You seem like a very wise person. I can already get a gist of your wisdom through the pages. What do you think about what's happening right now and how it's affecting Christianity?
Well, we live in dark times, but we need to remember that the church has always existed in dark times for the most part. And in fact, it started and the gospel spread through the world under the most severe and negative type of government that we can nearly imagine. God has never said that his people will have it easy. He has said that they're going to win at the end of the story. And the good news, as a friend of mine, Randy Harris, who's a theology professor at Abilene Christian, puts it, he says, I can sum up Revelation in 3 short statements. God's side wins. You've got to make a choice. Don't be stupid.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. What other questions do we have? Yes, young man.
Where did Jesus die?
Say it again.
Where did Jesus die?
Where did Jesus die?
He was just outside Jerusalem, which is in the land of Israel. And that's what is sometimes called the Holy Land, where most of the Bible stories happened.
Okay. We got a question over there. Thank you for that question, young man. Yes.
Yes, Edward, when you write this book or any other book, do you consult or you dream with God? God really lead you the way how to write the book or any book that you've been writing?
Did he say about
Yeah, Adam, let me make sure I've got your question right, Adam. When you write a book like this, do you pray to God? Do you ask for God's guidance, direction? How do you try to interface and seek God's assistance? Is that Adam?
Yeah, thank you,
basically?
Mark. That's exactly.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
thank you.
Definitely ask for God's assistance. Ask Him to give thoughts, to give words to express them in, to give the Spirit to be communicated by those words and those thoughts. And I don't claim that He always does anything supernatural, but I do feel that He assists me in that. And I feel that in this book in particular, I'll just say it this way, when I would go back and read it myself now, I say I don't think I could have written that book. So that's what I mean by God's help.
Okay, very good. Good question, Adam.
Yeah, I was wondering if you find yourself these days approaching your readers in a different way than you might have, say, 20 years ago. Because it seems to me like we live in an era where people question a great deal more and accept less.
That's an interesting observation, and I agree with what you're saying. I think that in this book, some accommodations, you might say, that are made to now and to the prospective audience now. One is that the chapters are shorter because people are used to getting their information in smaller bites. Another difference is I tried to tell the story. I don't make affirmations and assertions. I'm not trying to prove anything. It just tells the story and invites people to come along with me. So those are both perhaps responsive.
Mark?
I would just like to briefly commend you on this book. I'm browsing through it. It's very well written in the layman's terms. Somebody a simpleton like myself could understand. Especially the last chapter about the consumption, where you talk about, in essence, the revelation. But you make references to the revelation and the apocalypse and things like that in a way that you don't need like a separate study book to go through it, which I commend you very highly for, because it's an easy read and it's an educated read. But my question, off on a tangent from a previous question, is a few weeks ago, Franklin Graham was disinvited to the Pentagon to talk because of his thoughts about Islam being basically an enemy to Christians, and not Muslims, but Islam. But he was disinvited because they were afraid that it was going to upset the quote-unquote Muslims that worked at the Pentagon. I guess my question to you is that I agree with Franklin Graham, and what are your thoughts, and Mark, you too, if you would, on Franklin Graham being disinvited to the Pentagon?
Well, let me say this. I'm here to talk about the divine rescue, and that's what I know something about. So I don't want to say more than what I know about. But since you ask, I'll try to give you a decent answer. I think there's a general rule that those who invite people sometimes disinvite the people they have invited. And if I were doing the inviting, I would have invited him and kept it that way. But if they invited him, I suppose they have a right to disinvite him. If they ask for a vote on who agrees with it, I would say I don't agree with it. I think that there's definitely any realist would have to say that in the world there are many Islamists, radical Islamists, whose goal is to destroy everybody who's not a Muslim. I think, on the other hand, any informed person has to say that there are many millions of Muslims who want to live quiet and peaceable lives, just like we do, and we should not confuse the two.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Fudge, I'd like to thank you for coming for your information. And what I want you to do is explain in your book, in a sense, your testimony and why you write these books, so that people can understand, just the love that you have in you. So
That's a great question, Jerry. Thank you. Why do you write these books?
God gives us all different gifts to serve His people in the world, and I have felt for many decades that God has given me the ability sometimes to write things that bless people, and that's been confirmed by some of the things I've written. So I write them because that's what I feel God has put me here to do, and I would be unfaithful to His stewardship if I didn't do it. But I hope as the result of that is that people are blessed by coming to know Jesus better, and that God is praised and honored as a result of that.